We want the suspect to know that the no snitch policy will never protect you in our community, that we're coming for you, we're looking for you, and we'll leave no stone unturned in trying to find out your whereabouts. But at the end of the day, we want this brother to know we will not rest until you're held accountable for this crime. And this was a wicked crime, and a crime against women, and a crime against humanity.
$500. That was the amount reportedly offered for a meeting. She agreed. In the early morning hours, an Uber arrived and carried her toward a location where a man was waiting. But somewhere along that journey, something went terribly wrong. She would not return home. Hours later, her phone was discovered abandoned near a roadway. An investigator said there was blood on it. The woman who had left for a meeting was now missing, and the man she had gone to see was suddenly at the center of the investigation. But who was he? And what happened during those final hours before she disappeared? At first, investigators had almost nothing. No body, no eyewitness who could explain what happened, and no immediate answer for where the missing woman had gone. But there was something they could follow: a digital trail. Investigators learned that she had arranged to meet a man through Snapchat, reportedly for $500. Then came the Uber ride, the locations, the phone, and the evidence investigators said began connecting that man to her disappearance. 3 questions now stood at the center of the case. Why did she agree to meet him? What happened after the Uber dropped her off? And how did a simple meeting allegedly become the last known journey of a woman who never came home? Because one of the first major clues wasn't found inside a house. It was found beside a road.
We believe this young woman is the victim of foul play. She's been kidnapped, and that she's being held against her will. And law enforcement needs to do a better job of taking this case a lot more serious than they have.
That's Quanell X, a Houston community activist who stepped in and started publicly pressuring police to move faster. And he wasn't just speaking on Felicia's case alone.
She's the victim of foul play. HPD has to take these cases more serious. This is the 4th one I've dealt with in 6 months of a missing African-American female. And in every one of those cases of a missing African-American female, HPD dragged its feet, and they did not do anything until I began to go public and demand that they get involved and do something. So we need HPD to take the cases of missing young black women seriously, like they take the cases of missing young white females. We need that same level of attention and priority like you give the young white females, then you give them young black females. We want equality from HPD and how you deal with these missing person cases, because it seems like when young black females go missing in this city, it's not a priority.
Her name was Felicia Marie Johnson. She was 24 years old, originally from California, and in April 2022, she came to Houston around the time of her birthday. She was looking for work, looking for opportunity, and like so many people starting over in a new city, she was trying to build a future for herself. But on April 15, Felicia was seen around CoverGirl's nightclub in Northwest Houston. She was reportedly looking for work when her plans took a turn. By the early hours of the next morning, Felicia had arranged to meet a man. At the time, it may have seemed like an ordinary opportunity. Her family had no reason to believe anything was wrong. They had no idea that the next few hours would become the beginning of a nightmare. Because after that night, Felicia would never come home.
First tonight, the mystery is deepening in the search for Felicia Johnson.
Tomorrow will mark 2 weeks since her father says the 24-year-old disappeared after applying for a job at a Northwest Houston adult entertainment club. But the club's attorney tells us tonight they have no record of her application.
Houston police are investigating this case. Grace White is at HPD headquarters tonight with new information. Grace?
Houston police are being tight-lipped about this investigation, but they do confirm it's an active case, and this club, where the family claims she was last seen, is turning over their surveillance video.
Just after 3 a.m. on April 16th, Felicia was staying at the Intercontinental Houston Medical Center. Then, surveillance cameras captured her leaving the hotel. An Uber had been arranged. The destination was an apartment complex on Windchase Boulevard. And according to investigators, that location was connected to the man Felicia had agreed to meet. She arrived, and investigators alleged the man picked her up and took her to another residence on South Richmond Avenue. That was the last known movement in Felicia's journey that night. After that, the trail began to break apart. No more hotel footage. No more confirmed contact with her family. No return to her room. And no explanation for where she had gone. But investigators would eventually uncover clues suggesting that something had happened after she arrived at that residence. The question was what? And the answer would begin with a discovery made far away from the apartment.
Looking for Felicia Johnson. Today they searched an area of interest at Bear Creek Pioneers Park, which is right around the location where Johnson's family says her phone was found.
Well, it's been 5 days since Johnson was last seen leaving a nightclub on West Little York in Northwest Houston. ABC 13 reporter Roxy Bustamante joins us live with what we've learned about her disappearance. Roxy.
So the Cover Girls nightclub right here behind me was the last place where Felicia Johnson was last seen. Now, Houston police tell us that detectives returned back here to this area, and her father is hoping that the surveillance video from inside the building will reveal who left with his daughter. Where is Felicia Johnson?
I can't put it into words. I'm trying to hold myself together and not just break down, and I don't know where my baby is or what's being done to her.
Kevin Johnson says his daughter Felicia was at the Cover Girls nightclub off of West Little York on Friday, April 15th. He says she was trying to apply for a job but was turned away.
She called the Uber. Uber was taking too long to really get here. So a gentleman here at the club offered to give her a ride to where she needed to go. Felicia has not been seen since. No cell phone activity, no credit card activity, no social media activity. She has absolutely just vanished off the face of the earth.
A team with Texas EquiSearch was searching in an area of interest near the park off of Eldridge Parkway.
We know that she's a victim of foul play. We need help in finding her.
Johnson's family fearing the worst. Her father sharing this message in hopes that Felicia Johnson is still somewhere alive.
It's a tragedy that you've been caught up in this net of whatever they got going on out here. But we working very, very hard to get you back. And I love you. Everybody in the family love you. And I just wanted to let you know, just stay strong and we're coming.
Then came the discovery that changed the direction of the investigation. Felicia's cell phone was found near Bear Creek Pioneers Park. And according to police, it wasn't simply lying there abandoned. Investigators said the phone was covered in blood. Her purse was also later recovered in the same general area. For detectives, those discoveries changed the nature of the case. This was no longer simply a search for a missing 24-year-old woman. The evidence was beginning to point toward the possibility that Felicia had been the victim of violence. But one question remained unanswered. If Felicia had left the hotel, taken an Uber, and then allegedly been driven somewhere else, what happened between that journey and the moment her blood-covered phone was found? The answer began with one name.
Well, investigators are telling us they hope this brings her family some kind of closure, but HPD continues searching for the man they believe murdered Felicia Johnson. What was supposed to be a birthday trip to Houston turned deadly for 24-year-old Felicia Johnson. She was visiting from San Diego back in April of last year and vanished. And now investigators say DNA and dental records confirm the remains found at the Sam Houston National Forest earlier this month are hers. We spoke to Felicia Johnson's dad when the remains were found, and even then, he knew those remains were his daughter.
Whenever they release her, then I will be able to have a service for her and pay her the respects that she needs.
Houston police have charged 28-year-old Chukwuebuka Nobudu with her murder. He's on the run. His arrest warrant said they met on an escort website before she disappeared on April 16th of last year. The warrant says they found DNA strongly matching Felicia's at Nobudu's home, and a gun and a knife and a shovel in his car. Investigators say they also found searches related to how to be a serial killer and most forwarded places in Houston.
I was in anguish. I still am, because I want the perpetrators to be caught.
And now that her remains have been found, many hope this brings her family one step closer to getting the closure they deserve.
And at least you don't have to wonder and question, where is she? What happened to her? At least you have that now. And now we can move on to the next step, and that's catching this guy and bringing him to justice.
Now, if you have any information on the suspect, you're told to contact police or Crime Stoppers. There is a $5,000 reward. Reporting live, Anayeli Ruiz, KHOU 11 News.
Investigators identified Chukwuebuka Nobudu as the man Felicia had reportedly arranged to meet. According to charging documents, the two had communicated through Snapchat and allegedly agreed on a $500 meeting. Then, investigators found a detail that appeared to support that arrangement. Bank records, they said, showed Nobudu withdrew $500 on April 16th. But investigators weren't stopping at the financial records. They began reconstructing what happened after Felicia disappeared. Surveillance footage and receipts allegedly showed purchases of items including a mechanical saw, trash bags, towels, and a flashlight. Then came the search of Nobudu's vehicle. According to investigators, they allegedly found blood, a handgun, gloves, a shovel, and a large kitchen knife. And inside the apartment, investigators said they discovered blood and DNA evidence that strongly matched Felicia. Piece by piece, investigators were building a case around what they believed happened after that meeting. But there was another discovery they say would take the investigation in an even more disturbing direction. And this time, the clue came from a phone.
Take a flick. Come on, take a flick. Yeah, I got Bel Air and Accessible.
Investigators then turned to Nobudu's digital activity. According to charging documents, searches made after Felicia's disappearance allegedly included questions about blood, DNA evidence, missing person investigations, and ways to avoid getting caught. Investigators also said they recovered disturbing images from his phone. By this point, the case had moved far beyond a missing person investigation. The evidence investigators described appeared to be forming a much larger picture. But there was still one thing detectives did not have: Felicia herself. There was no body, no grave, and for months her family was left with the unbearable uncertainty of not knowing where she was. Then, nearly 10 months after she disappeared, that changed.
Hello, my name is Kevin Johnson. I'm the father of Felicia Marie Johnson. I arrived here in Houston on April 16th, 2022, at which time I immediately began trying to find any leads in the disappearance of my daughter and seeking help from the Houston Police Department. Nevertheless, it took approximately 5 days before Houston PD would begin to investigate Felicia's disappearance. Since that time, I've stepped back and allowed them to do their job. However, I have yet to be provided with any information as it relates to her last known whereabouts, which I believe to be the Cover Girl nightclub. Nor have I at this time been provided with any pertinent information as it relates to the surveillance footage at the Cover Girl nightclub that could easily confirm or deny Felicia's identity. I firmly believe some of the pushback I've experienced comes from several areas. One being there seems to be a code of silence here between several governing bodies, including the Houston PD. 2, it's a known fact that the DA, Kim Ogg, has taken campaign monies from the DeVary brothers, who happen to own the Cover Girl nightclub, in the amount of $25,000. I believe Felicia could have possibly been trafficked, and I also believe the footage from the Cover Girls could possibly provide us with answers to Felicia's whereabouts and could confirm her identity. We are all aware that the Vardy brothers have an extensive history of criminal activities, from wage theft to alleged prostitution, public lewdness, selling booze to minors, refusing their inspections, and yes, alleged human trafficking. My plea today is to the city of Houston and all its governor entities would hear my heart and my plea, and to not hold back any efforts or information that could help bring Felicia home. I am grateful for Lee Merritt, who has agreed to take on my case and helping to bring Felicia home. And I am hopeful that Black Lives Matter Houston, Roland Martin, would come on board and be willing to use their platforms to make sure Felicia is found. Finally, to Governor Sylvester Turner, as a girl dad, I'm more than sure you understand why I will not stop fighting to bring Felicia home. I am hoping you will also partner with me, making sure no stone goes unturned and all accountable are brought to justice to find my baby girl and bring her home safely.
Human remains were discovered in the Sam Houston National Forest. Investigators began the painstaking process of identifying them. Forensic testing ultimately confirmed what Felicia's family had feared. The remains belonged to Felicia Johnson. After months of searching, her family finally had an answer to the question that had haunted them. Where was Felicia? But that answer brought another question. Would the man accused of killing her ever face justice?
I believe this young woman is the victim of foul play. She's been kidnapped and that she's being held against her will. And law enforcement needs to do a better job of taking this case a lot more serious than they have. HPD has to take these cases more serious. This is the fourth one I've dealt with in 6 months of a missing African-American female. And in every one of those cases of a missing African-American female, HPD dragged its feet. And they did not do anything until I began to go public and demand that they get involved and do something. So we need HPD to take the cases of missing young black women seriously, like they take the cases of missing young white females. We need that same level of attention and priority like you give the young white females, then you give them young black females. We want equality from HPD and how you deal with these missing person cases, because it seems like when young black females go missing in this city, it's not a priority.
Chukwuebuka Nwobodo was charged with murder and tampering with evidence. But he remains a fugitive, and the allegations against him remain just that, allegations. There has been no trial establishing his guilt. For Felicia's family, the discovery of her remains finally ended one painful uncertainty, but it did not bring the courtroom resolution they had hoped for. Felicia Johnson was 24, a daughter, a young woman who came to Houston looking for opportunity, and a life that ended with questions still surrounding her final hours. Now, the question is no longer where Felicia is. It is whether the man accused of killing her will ever be brought before a court to answer those allegations. Until then, her case remains unresolved.